Hello, and welcome to the last video in this series on using Microsoft PowerPoint. This one will be different than the last, as this will not be items covered in the MO 300 PowerPoint Microsoft certification. In this one, we'll be discussing more on the presentation theory. And as an overview, we'll be talking about what is method of delivery, what does it mean to keep slides simple, make sure you know your audience, know what is on your slides, and learn shortcuts when presenting. So for the first one, we're just going to talk about the method of delivery. This is important because how you use PowerPoint varies depending upon its use. And from the 20 plus years of experience I've had being in briefings, developing slides over the course of my career and scholastic life, I've noticed that there's three primary types. First is the in-person type. This is the kind of presentation that is commonly used when you are in front of people in the workplace or the instructor in front of a class. These slides are used to aid in the communication of what the professor or a coworker is saying. The other two that I've noticed is directed and informational. These are usually the two types that I've seen when the person who is trying to relay a message is not there in the room. When you have a directed slide, this is commonly the slides you see coming up from headquarters or higher levels when they have information that must go down to those below. And in this case, they have a tendency to be wordy and have a lot to say because they want to make sure that there is zero margin of error when it comes to the message that is being presented. The other type is more informational. This has a tendency to be less directive compared to the directed style. This is similar to the video series that I'm working on here, but is also when PowerPoint slides are utilized on a billboard setting where they're trying to relay some sort of advertisement or just information, but on a rotating basis. Either way, when it comes to direct or informational, in both of these cases, the person who is creating the information that's trying to present the information to others is not available in the room. The next thing to talk about is keeping it simple, also known as the KISS principle. In PowerPoint, it definitely comes into play. Make sure you have what you need and only what you need when it comes to the slide. Don't have too much information on the slide because too much causes problems. So in this case, more is less. Again, another thing to pay close attention to is make everything count. This is the most important thing that I can say on this slide. And as a case in point is a situation that I dealt with a few years ago. I had a case where I was presenting information to folks in the military that were high ranking. They were colonels, chiefs, majors, lieutenant colonels. In this particular case, the slides were ones that it was given to me to give to them, and I knew the slides, but I knew most of the information. I had a colonel that questioned every single object, whether it was a word, a graphic, even very small words that were part of a chart. Make sure every pixel you have on the slides have a purpose. If it does not have a purpose or you cannot explain why it is there, don't have it there. So make sure everything that is there has a purpose. The next thing that we're going to talk about is know your audience. Who is going to see your presentation? This is a very important question because it may be elementary school students, high school, maybe college students. It may be your coworkers or maybe your leadership, or it could possibly be your friends and family. Who is in your audience is very important because the presentation has to fit that audience. Because if the information that is being presented is too complex or too simple for that audience, you have lost them. And the entire point of the presentation has gone to waste. The other thing about why it's important is even when it comes to objects like this. In the previous presentation, I had this on here, but I didn't exactly explain why I had it. The backstory of this is when I was up in Minot, North Dakota, this is what is known as a ground squirrel, also known as a Dakota rat, or as we like to call Dak rats. They may be cute, they may seem innocent, but they are very destructive. On Minot Air Force Base, in my section, they have caused over $10 million worth of damage to our facilities because they dug holes through dikes because they love to dig. These things, as innocent as they seem, are very destructive. And we actually had a slide where we were discussing how to handle the Dak rat population, and that is the purpose of this image. So knowing your audience is important to make sure you don't have things of this nature that could possibly be taken wrong. The next thing that we'll roll into is make sure you know what is on your slides. The only bullet to really talk about is who is the slides for? This is a very important question, and it's a rather simple one. These slides are for the people that are receiving the information, not for the one presenting the information. There have been many cases where I've sat in presentations, whether it's in school or work, where the person that was presenting is glued to the slides in order to even speak. The slides, at most, should only be triggers for the presenter to know what needs to be said, but the presentation is for the people receiving the information. It is not for the individual who's trying to give it. That giving portion should have been done when the slides were developed. So it is imperative that if the slides are going to be done in person, the individual who is presenting the slides and discussing the slides must know the information that is on that presentation. Because if you are staring at it along with everybody else, it is a major distraction and you will lose folks. So for this last portion, I wanted to go back to Microsoft PowerPoint and do the video because shortcuts are your friend. When it comes to learning shortcuts, it makes you much more proficient when it comes to utilizing Microsoft PowerPoint and, frankly, most programs on Windows, Macintosh, or even Linux. So the first one I want to just to go over real quick as an example is Control Z. This is the undo function. This, quite frankly, is your best friend because no matter how good you are, you're always going to make a mistake. Or you may just want to see the difference between what you did and what you did prior. So Control Z and Control Y is your undo and redo for when you make mistakes or you just want to see the varying differences. Now, when it comes to moving and copying objects, I just wanted to show this little trick that I've found very, very useful in the past. When it comes to using the mouse, holding down the Shift key while you left mouse click and drag will force the window to only move in vertical or horizontal plane and does not allow you to go diagonal. When you hold down Control, it will then allow you to, you'll notice that the arrow changes and has a small plus. This allows you to copy that object on the screen. This is mostly useful when you have graphics if you want to copy that graphic and place it numerous times on the page. Alt, on the other hand, similar to how, like, if you don't do anything at all, you'll notice that this text box right here moves in what's known as a grid, so it snaps to only certain locations. However, if you hold down Alt while doing this, it is very smooth and very specific as to where it is moved, where you're able to move it pixel by pixel. The interesting thing here also is you can use any combination of Shift, Control, and Alt to move along the plane and also copy. Or you can do a Control and Alt to be able to copy, but not be restricted to the grid snaps. And if you remember, we talked about early on that there's certain ones that you can use when it comes to presenting, where you have F5 that will start it from the beginning. Shift F5 will start the presentation on whatever slide you're currently showing. B will black out the screen. W will white out the screen. And then you also have, if you know what slide you want to quickly go to, you can just go to that slide by typing that number and then pressing enter, and it'll immediately go to that slide. These are just some of many of the shortcuts that are built into here. One of the things that you can do is on many of the objects, if you highlight over them, when it has the box that pops up for a quick tip, it will, if available, will tell you what that shortcut is. So for bold is Control B, italics is Control I, underline is Control U. These are just some of many when it comes to shortcuts. So in conclusion, thank you very much for making it this far. It has been a journey for me. Hopefully it has been a journey for you. If you have any questions or comments, please let me know. I am very apt to answer any and all questions that you may have. If you have accessed this video through Canvas, post your question or comment in the discussion board. If you have accessed this directly through YouTube, post it in the comment section below. And lastly, good luck as you continue on your road to learning.